What's going on, guys? Dolphin here, and well, to your guys' surprise, this isn't actually my first time editing this video. My freaking first time editing the video, my file got corrupted, and now this is my second time editing it. So, well, I am pretty tuckered out because I got so far in the first one, and now I'm having to do it again, so I'm pretty pissed off, so I sound kind of monotone. But today I decided to try and beat Shadow the Colossus without taking any damage. That's really it. Nothing too much here. I'm probably going to be talking about the Colossus fights and some important things that I think I should put in the video, but I'm probably not going to talk about like every single bit. I'm probably only going to talk about the Colossus fights and bits that I think are important to include, and that's it. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, here we come to our first Colossus, Valis. And Valis, well, he wasn't really too tough of a fight, so there's not really too much to talk about him. I basically just went up there, stabbed him a couple times, and it only took me about like 5 minutes. So, it wasn't that bad. Not too much to talk about Valis. Probably like the weakest Colossus in the game because he's the first one, but that's really it about Valis. And here we come to the second Colossus, Quadratus, and Quadratus wasn't really that hard. He is the second Colossus in the game, and he doesn't really move around that much, so it's really easy to move around on him and stab him in his weak points, and I really had no problem with Quadratus. But nothing really too much to talk about him. He's a really simple Colossus, and, well, I had no problems. Now here we come to the third Colossus, Gaius. And Gaius I had a lot of trouble on, from stuff like he wouldn't, try to come down and hit me with his sword. He would come over and try to stop me. Or, stop. Did I say stop? I probably should stop me. I meant to say stomp me. And he tried to stomp me in the ground. But I kept on trying to run away so that he would hit me with his sword on the ground. But he would just never do it. And, eventually I was able to get him to do it. And I was able to get on his head. But, it's just a really aggravating fight with him. And I hate fighting him. But nothing really too much to talk about here. There was one part that really made me mad, and it was this part right here. Watch, if you look, I go back down to regain my strength, or my grip, and I come back up to try and stab him, and right here in this scene, right there, if you see his health, like, that stab right there should have killed him, but, like, it didn't for some reason, and it pissed me off, and I eventually did kill him with that stab, but I hate fighting this dude. He is annoying. And now we come to the fourth Colossus, Phaedra. Phaedra, there's not a lot to talk about him, but he was pretty hard because he wouldn't go over to the holes that I was at, and he wouldn't look in them, and he would just like walk over there. I would go around, try to get on his back, and then he'd start walking towards me, even though he couldn't see me. And he was aggravating the hell out of me, but eventually I did end up killing him. But he just sucks. I hate fighting him. He's really annoying. But that's mostly it about him. And now we come to the fifth Colossus, known as Avion. Avion wasn't too hard of an opponent to fight. It was just really annoying when he'd flap his wings, and when Wander would keep on grabbing onto the stupid, what's it called, ledges, instead of his stupid fur, and it would annoy the hell out of me. But eventually I did end up beating Avion, and I got past him. But that was mostly it with Avion. Not too much with him. And here we come to the sixth Colossus in the game, who is Barba. Barba was actually really hard because he was a lot faster than Wander, and what eventually ended up happening was I think I ended up at the beginning baiting him into stomping, and he stomped on the ground, which slowed him, and then I was able to get past all the walls, and I eventually ended up getting on top of him and stabbing him. His fight probably only took me about 15 minutes to complete, but Barba was pretty hard. I hated him. I probably died to him about one time, and then I had to restart, and I came back and fought him, and I ended up succeeding. But that's mostly it. There's not much left to talk about. So now we come to the 7th Colossus, Hydrus, and Hydrus wasn't too hard to defeat. It was just very long and tedious of me just baiting him, and then once you like get him down to half health, he goes underwater and you have to release yourself in order to get back up and get air, and then you have to wait for him to come back up, and eventually you end up killing him. But it took me about like maybe 20-25 minutes to defeat him, so pretty annoying to defeat him, but we got through it. I got through it pretty well. So not too much of a challenge, but mostly just long and tedious. And that's about it about Hydrus. And now we move on to the 8th Colossus, Kuramori. Dang, that is a really hard name to say, Kuramori. Kuramori was not that hard. It was pretty easy to fight him. Just really annoying having to go over, shoot him down, and then come back down and stab him to death. It was really annoying having to do that, but eventually I did end up succeeding, and I did end up beating this giant lizard-looking thing. But that was really it about Komori. Not too much to talk about him, and that's it. And now we move on to Colossus number 9, Basarin. Basarin mostly wasn't too hard. It was really annoying a couple times though, because sometimes Wander would just like roll around on him, and it was just super annoying because Wander wouldn't stand up, and I would like fall off him or something like that, and it would annoy the hell out of me, and then I'd have to restart because I took damage. But eventually I did end up getting on top of Basarin, and I did end up stabbing him in the head and killing him. But Basarin, I would consider him probably like a little bit of a challenge because I had to tip him about like 2 times. But there's nothing too much about Basarin, and that's mostly it. And now we come to the 10th Colossus, Dirge. Now Dirge, he wasn't too much of a pain in the butt, but I did die to him one time. I took damage, and then I had to kill myself because I took damage. And I ended up coming back, and the second time I'm beating him shorter than the first time. The first time that I did it, it took me like about like 10 minutes, and I got him to like halfway HP. And then, like, the second time only took me, like, 5 minutes to get him killed. Like, it was really easy to defeat Dirge. I think it's just because I haven't used the bow on the horse in a long time. So I was pretty bad at shooting Dirge's eyes. But, I eventually did get through Dirge, and we didn't have too many problems. Now, here is the 11th Colossus, Celosia. Celosia was pretty hard, because he would just not let me stab him. He would just flop me around like a rag doll, and it would just be impossible to stab him sometimes. Sometimes I would get in the small little stabs, which is what you have to do in order to kill Celosia. But Celosia is just a really annoying Colossus to fight, and I absolutely hate fighting him. But eventually I did get through him, but this is probably my most challenging colossus that I've had. Probably not challenging now I think about it, probably the most annoying colossus that I've had, because Celosia is a really annoying colossus. And now we move on to the 12th colossus, Pelagia. Pelagia, I ended up not recording him, so I ended up having to go back and record him. And by the way, all those like other like colossus where you see like this timer up in the top right, that's all colossus that I had to go back and fight again because I didn't fight them. I mean, I did fight them, but I didn't record them apparently, which kind of got on my nerves. And I didn't like record like I think like I don't know like 4 or 5 colossus, 4 or 3 colossus actually. And I had to go back and re-record all of them, but I did come back and I fought him again, and I didn't take any damage. But Pelagia, he is not that hard. He has a very simple moveset, and he's really easy to avoid, and there's not much to talk about Pelagia. And now we move on to the 13th colossus, Phalanx. Phalanx wasn't too hard, but the problem here is that you end up taking unavoidable damage that I couldn't avoid taking. What ends up happening with Phalanx is that when you stab him enough times, he'll go into the ground and he'll like shoot sand up into your face or something like that, and you end up getting hurt by the sand, and you can't avoid it. If I try to jump off of Phalanx, I'll just take damage from falling. If I just sit there, I'll take damage from the sand, and it's a really annoying process trying to fight Phalanx, and I just hate fighting him. So we ended up failing the challenge to Phalanx, so we have 1 fail now, which is really annoying because I made it to the 13th colossus and failed to the 13th, and I'm pretty annoyed by it. And now we come to the 14th colossus, Cenobia. Cenobia, I didn't have too many problems with, actually. He was actually really easy. I thought he was going to be harder because he's just a smaller colossus and really annoying, but he ended up being much easier. And I ended up doing very well in fighting him because for some reason he'd run into pillars that I was staying on top of, and it would knock him to the ground, and that would make it that would make it super easy for me to get on top of him and stab him. And eventually, after doing that, I did end up killing him, and he was a pretty easy colossus to fight. I thought he was going to be much harder from what I remember, but he ended up being super, super easy, and I didn't have too much of a problem with him. So that's really it to talk about him, and that's it. And now we come to the 15th colossus, Argus. And while I was looking at this dude, I ended up coming to an epiphany online. And this guy is my favorite colossus. Like, I thought he was like one of the regular colossus, like, oh, he's just like some big dude. But I ended up figuring out that this guy is apparently like a gorilla colossus. And I kind of was surprised. Like, I didn't expect him to be a gorilla, but I guess he is. But also, I had some problems with him because you have unavoidable damage when you're fighting him. What ends up happening is that when he smashes the platform that you're on, so you can get up to like the place up top in order to, you know, kill him, you end up taking damage while doing that. And I tried everything to not take damage by like rolling out of the way or doing other things, but I just couldn't avoid this damage. And he's my favorite colossus, but dang is he annoying for doing this to me. And that's like our second time getting unavoidable damage, so plop that up on the board. And let's just continue on. And here we come to one of the saddest scenes in the game. This is an important scene that I feel I have to mention. But this is the scene where Aggro, I guess you could say, dies. And Aggro actually, dies here. Which is a pretty sad scene. But if you know what I'm talking about and you played the game before, you know what happens to Aggro. But I'm not going to spoil what actually happens to him. But later on, if you do play the game, eventually you'll know what happens to him. But it's a very sad scene, and I felt like I had to mention it, but there's nothing too much to talk about here. It's just I felt I had to mention Aggro's death. And now we move on to the 16th Colossus, and possibly the Colossus with the weirdest name. Malus Evis is his name. Why the hell is his name Malus Evis? That's just like the name of a normal human being, but like as a monster. It's so weird. But just about the Colossus, he wasn't too much to handle. I was able to take him out fairly easily. I did die to him like 3 times, but I did end up killing him in the end. And there's not too much to talk about him right here. And that's mostly it. Yeah. And here we come to the final part of the episode. And this is the 3rd part of unavoidable damage. Now, this part I had a feeling I was going to fail on from the beginning. But I didn't know I was going to fail 2 times before this. But this is like my 3rd time failing. And this is when you become possessed by Groudon, I think his name is. Yeah, Groudon. Ugh. Sorry, I had a my chest just felt like something was going on right there. Sorry. No, but you get possessed by, I think, Groudon, and what's his name? I don't even know his name. Shoots like arrows into you. And the arrows hurt you, and I end up taking damage here that is unavoidable. And you can't avoid this damage, and it's very annoying. But that's mostly it about this part. Nothing too much to talk about here. He ended up escaping, and Wander ended up not dying but becoming a baby. And that's it about this part. So, and now we're at the end of the video, you guys. This is it. Like, it was a pretty fun challenge to do, but I really thought that this would be the challenge that I would complete and I would be able to do, and I'm pretty disappointed that I wasn't able to actually complete this challenge, and I ended up taking damage 3 times. I'm pretty annoyed by that, but it was still a pretty fun challenge overall. I really, really loved it, because this is one of my favorite games, and I love this game to bits, and it's a really, really good game. If you guys have never played it, you guys should go play this game, because it's just overall just a masterpiece of a game. But I should probably stop praising the game and continue on with the outro. But if you guys did like this video, you guys should go try looking at my other content on my channel, which is actually some can you beat videos and stuff like that, which I try uploading as recent as possible, but it's really hard because recently I've started up school again, and now I'm starting to go back to school again. But it's still really fun to do stuff like this, and I try to do it as much as possible. So if you guys did like it, please consider liking and subscribing. But other than that, guys, I'll talk to you all later, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye!